that.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be starting shortly as we let more people come in. We look forward to getting started with our speakers today. Just give us one more minute as we let more people enter.
Do I just let you know when I need you to advance the slides?
Yes, ma'am. We still have some people trickling in, but we'll start. Hey. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. As we still keep waiting for people to trickle in to our webinar, I'm really excited to welcome you to today's webinar called Benefits for Employers. This is our fourth webinar in this series with the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. We are excited to welcome Brenda Bohrer, and who's with the Office of Workforce Development, and Deborah Bohrer, who's a RED for Region 7 in Northwest Louisiana, who are going to talk to you a little bit today about what are the actual benefits for employers as they partner with agency like LRS and start to include hiring and recruiting people with developmental disabilities in their everyday practice. What are resources that are available to them, how they can take advantage of all of this, and what are some steps to get started, and even some benefits that Deborah and Brenda have seen with the people they already work with. So before we get started, we'll just go through some housekeeping things, and then I will turn it over to Brenda, and then we'll open it up with Deborah and go into a Q&A. Okay. Just a little bit about the series. This has been presented by the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council as a part of its 5-year plan. The council is one of 56 councils across the United States, with all 50 states and territories, that works on behalf of advancing systems change and policy advocacy for the developmental disabilities community in the state. It is a council that is governor appointed and is made up of parents and individuals with developmental disabilities, as well as state agency leaders who are part of the conversation on how we improve community living for individuals with disabilities, including employment. And that is why we're here today on how to ensure that employing people with developmental disabilities can be a part of a productive way of community living, and how employers can utilize this untapped pool of talent as they're looking at filling their job positions. A little bit about me. I we work on behalf of LaDDC. I'm the producer of this series named Devika. I'll be behind the scenes as we let our great speakers take the stage. But if you have any questions or anything more, please drop it in the chat. We have had a great series since this series started. It is part of the Working Together campaign. As you can see, we've been underway for the past few webinars. These are all going to be available for on demand. So if you've missed anything or would like to see more, they will be on the LaDDC website shortly. And again, they're all available for recaps, refreshing yourself. And we have one more left coming up on August 23rd. And we hope you join us for that as we kind of bring it all together on programs and best practices that we are going to put together with everybody across our speakers in this series, and how you can get involved and start this process for yourself. Some housekeeping tools today. If you have any questions for our speakers, please raise your hand. You can use the hand icon. You can definitely drop your questions in chat. And we like to make sure they know that they're resonating with you. So drop emojis, give some feedback. And we really want to hear from you. And I will let our wonderful speakers definitely introduce themselves. But today we're talking to Brenda Bohrer. She has been a part of our series before, and we're excited to have her back. She's a program coordinator for the Office of Workforce Development. And Deborah Baragona, who is a RED for Region 7, and that's a local, and how she will discuss how local REDs can support employers in their specific regions and what they can do to engage with LRS. Okay, and before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and share Brenda's great presentation. And Brenda, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in chat. And please feel free to engage. We really want to hear from you because we definitely want this to be an informative series. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be off camera and on mute, and Brenda, just let me know when you want me to advance slides.
All right, thank you.
Can you see your presentation?
Yes, I can.
You can go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brenda, and I work for Louisiana Workforce Commission, and underneath that is Louisiana Rehabilitation Services, which is the agency I directly work for. So just a bit of a recap, there is a state vocational rehab agency in every state. And so in Louisiana, we call it Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. So for employers that have a multi-footprint in the United States, if you ever want to have a diverse workforce, all you have to do is reach out to your state agency, your state vocational rehab agency, and they can connect you. Okay. All right, the first thing that I want to make sure that I mention is that we do work with people that have disabilities, and our role is to get them employed. So if their ultimate goal is not of employment, then they are not going to be an eligible consumer that we can work with. So every one of the consumers that we work for, their ultimate goal is employment. But having a disability does not equal disabled. Because remember, every single person that we serve has a disability of some sort. And they're ready to be employed, and they want to be employed, and more, they're also employable. So I want to make sure that I get that point across. So having a disability does not equal disabled. But we need to face reality. So this is the reality. We are having a workforce shortage. It became really apparent right after we started to try to open back up after COVID-19. And when we found that we were trying to open up, we had these gaps in employment. We could not fill positions. Employers were hiking up their wage earnings just to attract more people. to the front, but that is the reality. And so as a result, employers are going to have to look at talent pools that have traditionally gone untapped. And because without a workforce, your business is going to fail. So one of the solutions is, I had mentioned, is by tapping into your talent pools that have traditionally gone untapped. And of course, we are one of them. Look at your people that have disabilities. Look at your state VR agencies. And when businesses use these talent pools, you have a 36% less chance of having work shortages. It's not about who you know anymore. It used to be in the old days, you could get a job if you just knew the right people, but sometimes that's not enough. You're still going to be facing with these workforce shortages. Go ahead. All right, but I get it. There are some employers that are hesitant to even take a look at the clientele that we do have, and they have some concerns, and their concerns are valid. One of them is money. They're going to be wondering, how much is this going to cost me? What about accommodations? What if they need them? How much is that going to cost me? Or what if they interview somebody and they don't hire them? They don't hire them not based upon their disability. They hire them just because they're not going to be a good fit, but they're afraid. They're still afraid of a lawsuit. Or what if they do hire them and they get hurt while on the job? Well, that's when second injury fund comes in. But that's another scenario, that's another story, and that's another presentation. But it's a valid concern. Some other concerns is, what if they get offended? What if they come across an email or something that they've read in the company literature and they get offended? Or what if they don't get along with others? What if they're just a misfit, or the other existing workforce just does not get along with them? Those are some valid concerns, and we'll address them. All right, go ahead. All right, but when you do have a diverse workforce, and when you do have an inclusive workforce, there's benefits to employers that I do want to review with you. One thing is, your customer base is not diverse. I'm sorry, your customer base is full of diversity. So shouldn't your workforce be? Your customer base is made up of all sorts of people, and those people have health challenges. They have disabilities. So if to thrive in business, your workforce should be representative of your customer base. Having a inclusive and diverse workforce increases morale. It generates new business ideas and creative solutions. All right, the next slide. All right, it also sends a positive message to prospective and existing employees. Work is valued. They're thinking, this is who I want to work for. When an employee sees that their workforce is diverse and inclusive, they can focus on their productivity. They can focus on the work because they're not worrying about what's going to happen when they get older, what happens when they have health challenges. They're not going to be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to be getting laid off. I'm going to be getting fired for some other type of excuse. When they see that their workforce is inclusive and diverse, they can rest assured and be assured that their employer pays attention to productivity, it pays attention to loyalty, and it pays attention to the value of maintaining and retaining your existing workforce. And you can breathe a sigh of relief. When you don't have that extra concern, you can focus on your job at hand. And it just makes good business sense. As I stated before, whenever you have an inclusive workforce, of course, it's going to be a benefit to the employee, but remember that disability does not equal disabled. And so for the employers that are out there in this audience, whenever you do have somebody that has some health challenges, they may have to take off from time to time to tend to those types of needs. And should your message be, oh, just make sure your lead time is accounted for, just make sure you you jot down your annual leave or the time that you're taking off in the system? And is that your only comment, or is it going to extend a bit more? Take the time that you need to get your health back in priority. You are a valued employee over here, and we look forward to when you return. When you have a caring atmosphere behind that, it's going to lessen the anxiety, lessen the stress of the person, and pretty much, and increase your chances of having that employee back to the office. Okay, go ahead. All right. Here at Louisiana Rehab Services, we serve anywhere from around 13 to 15,000 people on an annual basis. So that means somewhere in the system, and we get them at different steps along their employment journey. So sometimes we get them along the beginning of their employment journey, which means education. We have brought people from high school all the way to medical degrees. We have brought people all the way to teachers, to registered nurses, to accountants, to attorneys, you name it. We have brought them there from start to finish. And so sometimes they're in their education path, or they may be going to trade school. They may be going for auto mechanics, welding, bookkeeping, word processing, the whole gamut. And then sometimes we meet somebody that is trying to maintain employment. So they have a job, but their health challenges are preventing them from operating at max capacity. So they come to Louisiana Rehab Services looking for additional support to help them maintain a job. So we serve a wide variety of people for a wide variety of needs, but the actual people that come out employed every single year, so we serve around like 15,000 on average a year, but of that, we have around like 1,500 of those people that become employed in one given year. And to become successfully employed, they must be at a job for at least 90 days with no issues, no challenges. And so when we compile that data, so I said like on average, we have around 1,500 people every single year. And then after we get that number, we analyze that data. And our studies have shown that of the people that do obtain jobs, which I've already said is around 1,500 people a year, that 60% of those people obtain 3 to 5 star rated jobs. And in order to obtain a 3 or 4 or 5 star rated job, you have to have both high demand in Louisiana, so it's a high demand job in Louisiana, and it has to pay a certain wage earning capacity. So 60% of our closure rates end up in 3 or 4 or 5 star rated jobs. So what I'm telling you is our talent pool is indeed talented. They are smart, they are innovative, they are talented, they are workforce ready. And anytime that you add to your workforce, and anytime you pull from an generally untapped labor pool, you're going to generate, and when you hire them, you're going to generate more ideas. You're going to generate broader ideas for your business, brand new concepts that you may not have even thought about. And once again, there's so many studies out here about this, but generally when you employ somebody with disabilities, you have a lower rate of turnover, decreased absenteeism, and tardiness, and of course it saves on training and recruitment costs. We all know that it costs much more to train a new employee than maintaining an existing employee. So it's a cost savings, definitely a cost savings. All right, go ahead. All right. A lot of people, when they do apply for a certain type of job, they have to go undergo pre-employment testing, kind of like a personality test. So it's not really like a skills test. It's not really an aptitude test. It's more like a personality test. gosh, right before COVID, I took on a second job, and I was working at nighttime, and I remember how to undergo one of these personality tests. But let's just use this for an example. So let's say that I have this example of these three names. So let's just say Ashley and Robert already work for you. They are your existing workforce, and they're great. You like them. They do a great job. But this is how they answered their questions on their pre-employment profile. They answered very similarly, with the exception of one question. But now you're interviewing a person named Loretta, and she answers quite differently than Ashley and Robert. And remember, Robert and Ashley are already employed with you, and they're doing a great job. You like them a lot. But Loretta, she answered a lot differently. And so you're beginning to wonder, I don't know, should I hire Loretta? Is she going to be a great addition to our workforce staff? Is she going to be able to contribute? It sounds like she's a lot different than Ashley and Robert, and we already like them. That answer is yes, this is exactly who you need, because she's going to offer something else to your team that you do not have. She's going to be offering you ideas that Robert and Ashley never think about. Just like if you was a recruiter for a major baseball team, you don't want to recruit zero pitchers. You don't want to recruit all pitchers and zero shortstops. That would be a hellacious team. So the same way that you would recruit for a sports team is the same way that you need to go about recruiting for your workforce team. They need to have all different skill sets, all different types of personalities. That's what makes a team. That's what makes your team dynamic. And that's what makes more money for your business. Okay. All right, I did want to talk to you guys about interviewing. I'm not quite sure how many employers that are on this webinar, but if you are an employer, then you are interviewing. And in the past, I think even today, we focus an awful lot, on how the actual interview goes. And a lot of times that hiring decision is based upon how well the interview went. So for instance, you're looking at things like, did they make great eye contact? Did they give a great firm handshake? Were they personable in the interview? Were they personality plus? All of those types of factors that you think make a great interview. And that's what you base your decision upon. Well, I'm here to tell you that may not be the best business decision. And that is because there's so many positions out there that you're interviewing for, that having a personality plus is not part of the game. It is not an essential function of the job, but yet you're basing your decision upon that interview based upon how well they did in the interview process. So I encourage you to remember that a lot of the people that we work with don't have really great interview skills. They're not going to make good eye contact. They're going to be a little bit nervous. They're not going to give a firm handshake. They're not going to have any of that. Or some will, but some will not. And they won't be personality plus. They're not going to be overly chatty. They're going to think their resume speaks for themselves. And so I encourage you to not base your hiring decisions solely based upon your interview experience. Look at the essential duties of the job, see if they bring that to the table, because there's lots of jobs out there that you don't want a personality plus person in that job. Positions that are in engineering and mathematics, IT, auditing, all of those types of positions. If you was to hire somebody that was an A+ personality person, very chatty, that type of thing, they're probably not going to do well in those types of jobs, because those types of jobs require somebody that focuses, somebody that zeroes in, somebody that you interview with that did not interview well, but that has the ability to focus, that has the ability to zero in. So I do want to caution you, and I want to encourage you to make sure that information trickles down to your hiring managers. Make sure that they understand the importance of not basing your hiring decision solely off of the interview, because a lot of the people that we work with are job ready, they're educated, but yet they're not going to interview well. Okay, the next slide. All right, okay. Job accommodations. Job accommodations scares a few people. You know, the people that we work for are not quite sure how to ask for a job accommodation, and some businesses that consult with us, they're not quite sure of how to go about it. You know, they're a little nervous about it. And so I just kind of wanted just to go over this briefly with you. I'm just going to provide just a general definition, but an accommodation is any modification or adjustment to a job or work environment that will enable a qualified applicant or an employee to participate to perform the essential job duties. And so, but again, remember I had told you in a previous slide that one of the concerns that employers have is, what is this going to cost me? Major concern. I get it. You're a business. You're there to make money. But I have good news for you. This is recent studies. 49% of employers that provided accommodations stated that the accommodation was of no cost. So a typical no-cost accommodation is a flexible schedule. Okay, like for instance, this person they may have a herniated disc, and so they take pretty heavy medication at nighttime to help them sleep, to help them have a restful sleep so they can work the next day. And so they may be a little sleepy in the morning. So maybe the work accommodation is just to come in later and then stay later. Or maybe you have somebody that has MS, okay, multiple sclerosis. And that's an episodic type of thing. So there's many days you're not going to even know anything is wrong, but they tend to function better in the morning. So perhaps letting them come earlier in the morning and getting off early, still putting in their required time, but just a flexible work schedule is going to be advantageous to many. And this is zero cost accommodations. And in some instances, it will serve your customer base because now your availability of customer hours is increased. So again, 49% of employers surveyed said that the accommodations had zero cost. But for the employers that did have a cost, the average spent was $300. So it used to be $500. I've been working for LRS for 10 years, and it's always been $500. So recently, that average price went down by $200. And so that's good news. And we all know that it costs far less to retain somebody and to provide that accommodation with an average of $300 than it would be to hire a completely new person and train them from ground up. It's just cost effective. It's very cost effective just to provide that simple accommodation. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to give you some examples of some common accommodations. Some of these are very no cost and low cost. All right, so the first one is a person that has low vision. Some of them need a screen reader, okay? And some of them just need a high-tech magnifying glass. I put the cell phone magnifying glass because that works in some instances. Some need stronger vision, but a magnifying glass works well. Another thing, the phone. So many features of your phone that you guys probably use on a daily basis is really for the disability community. Think about texting. I use texting every single day. In fact, sometimes I prefer it. I prefer emails as well. 81% of mobile phone users use texting. And that essentially is for the, it was originally for the deaf community. Okay. Another thing is the timer on your clock or on your cell phone. So for instance, like let's say that you're working with somebody who can be engaged in a task that task may take about 30 minutes, but they may spend an hour and a half doing that task. They're not really great on time management. So encourage them to get out their cell phone. Our consumers, almost every single one of them has a cell phone. Encourage them to get out their cell phone and put a timer on it. For instance, if they have to straighten up aisles, let's say 10, 11, and 12, and then you're like, that needs to be done in a 30-minute time frame, but you know it would take them longer if they did not pace themselves, encourage people to use a timer. I sometimes get carried away when I'm not working and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the dreaded task of, of straightening up my home or, mopping or sweeping or whatever. And sometimes I will put that task on or put that timer on and pretend somebody's about to come over, because I guarantee you my house will be cleaned in no time at all when I'm timing myself. So encouraging your employees to time themselves or using a timer is really good for people with anxiety, people with poor time management skills, people with lower cognitive functioning. So they just need these gentle reminders to help them stay on time task. The other one is an ergonomic mouse. I have one. I was having some wrist pain, never been diagnosed with carpal tunnel, but been having a lot of wrist pain. So I just ordered one for myself, and it repositions the wrist. And so carpal tunnel is a big diagnosis. We see that diagnosis quite often. So just by spending about $8 to $10 on a new mouse probably could help the majority, or at least some of your employees that you currently have. The other accommodation that I have listed is probably one of my favorite accommodations, and it's called the sit-stand chair. There's lots of people that cannot sit or stand for long periods of time for various reasons. Lots of it has to do with either knee pain, back pain, or neck pain. And there's a lot of positions that require somebody at least to be at an eye level, such as maybe a cashier. And so getting them a sit-stand chair allows them to be at an eye level position with someone else, but it allows them to take the weight off of them, the weight off of their knees or their back or whatever is needed to help them work the entire day. Sit-stand chairs, they cost anywhere from $100 to $200. Okay, next slide. All right, kind of in line with the sit-stand chair is the floor mat. So if your position does require you to stand, but you have bad knees, bad neck, or bad back, you might want to get a floor mat. It's going to reduce the pressure off of those joints for you. The other one, right to the right, is earplugs. People that have low hearing or have tinnitus, they have a lot of background noise. And so sometimes putting an earplug is helpful in that. I had just put a picture of those. You can use those foam earplugs that are quite inexpensive. Those work just as fine. Other people that tend to get distracted very easily, such as people with ADD, if they're prone to like chit chat and different cubicles and things like that, they might want to put one of those in their ears as well, so that way they don't get into the chit chat, that they can just focus on the task at hand. So don't undermine the importance of using earplugs. The other ones to the right of that is just a footrest. Having a footrest at your desk helps to alleviate back pain. And then also the one I showed is keyboard underneath your desk area. Lots of people are putting their keyboard on top of their desk, and this is the effect that it does, and they're wearing their shoulders as earrings, and then they're wondering why they have so much shoulder pain and neck pain. So keyboards need to be underneath desk. If you want to be ergonomically correct, that's the position that any physical therapist or any occupational therapist is going to tell you to do. Another accommodation is working from home. A lot of businesses and a lot of employees got to see the benefit of working from home during COVID. And a lot of businesses extended it. They extended to this day because they realized not only was it cost effective, it worked well for the employee. And anytime that anything that works really good for the employee tends to come back in triple form for the employer. Because if they're productive on their end, it's going to increase your bottom dollar. So a lot of people did from home. The other picture is shades. So if you are working in an office that has a lot of windows and it's going to increase the sun glare, which is going to increase eye strain on your employee. If you have increased eye strain, you're going to have increased headaches. If you're prone to migraines, it can increase your migraines. And or if you have low vision, it's just going to produce too many glares on your computer to read. So sometimes just investing in a shade screen will be a benefit. And then the other one is a spinner knob. So for some of these positions that are more industrial, and so I've worked with a lot of people that don't have really great grip strength, and so but they still have the skill set. They want to operate a crane or a forklift or what or some type of machinery, and but they don't have the grip strength. And so what you do is you can install one of those spinner knobs, and instead you're going to use the palm of your hand to guide the vehicle rather than gripping the steering wheel. So that's going to be real effective as well. Because remember, for having grip strength, you're having a lot of neck pain as well. So sometimes they feel like they can grip the steering wheel, but they're wondering why their neck and the shoulders keep on hurting them. So sometimes just installing a spinner wheel will help on those mobile devices. Next slide. All right. And then, of course, and this is just a list, I want to give you a rundown of when employers provide accommodations, you have a slew of benefits. One thing, of course, it increases productivity because now the person can work that full 8 hours, or they can work their shift without any major challenges. But here's the other benefit, is when an employee sees what you've done for someone else. That's just going to have a really good, feel-good experience. And they're going to be really glad they are right there where they are. They're going to be really glad that they're like, I am so glad I work for these people. This employer has great morale. They believe in increasing morale. They have good ethic about them. Are a good ethic about them, that they really want to do what they can to keep our workforce happy, keep our workforce healthy. And of course, whenever you provide accommodations, you're going to have greater attendance, and you're going to eliminate, because if you cannot provide accommodations, that person may go away. And then you're going to be faced with replacing that person, and then therefore incurring new costs with retraining somebody. And I cannot say this enough. You're just going to increase your overall company morale. And anytime you have an increase in morale, it's going to boost your effectiveness. It's going to boost your productivity, which it all stands for better business. And as I said in a previous slide, it just makes good business sense to do these types of things. You think you're helping one person by providing an accommodation, but the other workforce sees what's happening. They're talking in break rooms. They're saying, gosh, can you believe what they did for me? This is what they did for me. It's just an overall good feeling when you're working for someone that really cares. Okay, next slide. All right, I did want to just briefly go over the tax incentives and tax deductions. We have 3 that I want to talk about. Not going to go too much with these, but the first one is a work opportunity tax credit. Oh, okay, go ahead to the next slide. All right, so this is the work opportunity tax credit. And so what this is it provides a tax credit of up to 40% of the first 6,000 of first year wages, but you have to be in a targeted group. And so the different targeted groups that they have set aside include a disabled veteran, someone that receives temporary aid for needy families, which is TANF. If they are a client of ours, if they are a client of a state vocational rehab agency, which of course Louisiana Rehab Services is the state VR agency in Louisiana. I can't remember the other targeted groups, but I think, but there's numerous ones. And so it's quite easy to apply for this credit. Many of our employers in Louisiana just readily send those forms in every single week. I mean, if they're hiring 5 people a week, they're sending all of those forms in. And and you're going to get hit after so long. And so it provides a tax credit. So what I'm telling you is the person that you're hiring may never tell you that they have a disability. They may never tell you they have a disability because it may be hidden, and they want to keep that under the radar. And they may never tell you that they've been a client with LRS. So you're never going to know to apply for that credit. So I do want to encourage all to apply for that tax credit and to get that benefit of that. All right, the next slide. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. I had to repeat slide. All right, the other one is the burial removal tax deduction. So this is not a tax credit. This is a tax deduction, and businesses may claim a deduction of up to $15,000 a year for qualified expenses. All right, the next slide. All right, and this is still another credit. So the first one was the work opportunity tax credit. All right, and that's when you have the targeted groups, and of course all of our clients. If you ever hire any of ours, any of our consumers, you would get that tax credit. And the second one we talked about was the burial removal tax deduction, which was a tax deduction of up to $15,000. But this is the disabled tax credit. So this is for small businesses, and they define an eligible small business as one that has earned $1 million or less and has no more than 30 full-time employees. So that is the criteria for the small business. And what happens, it's 50% of the eligible access expenditures that exceed $250 but do not exceed $10,250. And I'll go more into that. Next slide. So these are your eligible expenditures. So if you have any of these expenditures, keep track of them, keep track of how much they cost, because you and your accountant are going to want to sit down and claim this tax credit. So examples of the expenditures included is removing any architectural, communication, physical, or transportation barriers, providing qualified readers, tape text, anything making it more accessible to people with visual impairments, providing qualified interpreters, or other effective methods of making orally delivered materials available to individuals with hearing impairments, acquiring or modifying any devices with individuals with disabilities, or just providing other similar services, modifications, materials, or equipment. So your eligible excess expenditures, as you can see, that it's kind of wide open, which is great for businesses. But I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, so the next slide. All right, so we have, this is company A. All right, so they provided a reasonable accommodation in the amount of $8,000. So the first thing that you do is subtract the $250, and you're going to have $7,750, and you're going to take 50% of that amount. So that is the amount that the company can take the tax credit for. Okay, so but the other example is at company B. So they also had to remove a physical barrier in accordance with ADA, the Americans Disability Act. Okay, so the company spent $12,000, which we know it exceeds $250, but it's also over the $10,250. So what happens is the amount by but so the 50% of the $10,000 is the $5,000, and so that's what the company is eligible for their tax credit on their next tax return. I don't want to go too much in the weeds about this because I'm not an accountant, but I definitely wanted the employers to understand that you have 3 different types of tax incentives. One is a tax deduction and 2 are tax credits. And so if you're doing any of this, if you're providing any types of accommodations, keep track of that. Keep track of the expenses that you incur. And if it's $250 and less than $10,250, then you can get credit for that. So, you and your accountant would definitely want to want to meet about that. And so that way you can get the most bang for your buck. And we here at LRS, we have various employment specialists all over the state that work directly with our consumers and with our businesses. And so they're kind of like our boots on the ground people. We call them REDs. They are our regional employment development specialists. And at this time, I would like to turn over to our employment specialist that is in another part of Louisiana. Her name is Deb, and she's gonna, I'm gonna let her take over at this point.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Deb, would you mind coming on camera so I can spotlight
you?
Yes.
Turn off my phone there. Didn't mute properly.
Thank you so much, everybody. Brenda.
Good morning. Thank you, Brenda. That was very informative, even for me. Folks, I am a job placement specialist. I have a master's degree in vocational rehab counseling, but here at LRS, I'm not a rehab counselor. I'm a job placement specialist. So as you may know, clients come through our program. They're served by our rehab counselors. When they are job ready, they're referred to me for placement or on-the-job training. As far as people with developmental disabilities, there's no clear-cut path here. Some who are needing supported employment, we refer them to our partners like Goodwill or Louisiana Association for the Blind, because they have never worked in competitive integrated employment before, and they need extensive support and even post-hire aftercare. Others who may be on the spectrum, such as autism, they have worked before, but they've been displaced or intermittently employed or having issues, and they're referred to me for direct job placement. So some may have limited work experience that are referred to me, and others may be significantly disabled, and if they've ever worked before, I can help them directly. As for most significantly disabled clients, one example is a higher functioning client with autism who graduated from college and was placed as a tutor, helping younger individuals with autism increase their academic competencies. Another is a client I have with cerebral palsy who earned his real estate license and is currently enrolled in community college for business administration. I will pick him up when he graduates. So there's flexibility here. I'm currently working with a client who has sickle cell anemia. After high school, she attended 1 year of online college, but now we're in pursuit of a part-time clerical job because she has only worked outside the home for 1 month of her young life. So what I did was I used a temporary employment agency with her, put her in a temp job to see how she could do to help her acclimate back to the world of work. She'd been at 1 month was years ago. And to see what would happen. What she discovered was that she could not handle a full-time job on a permanent basis. So that taught us in a practical sense that we're gonna only look for temporary jobs for her. And hopefully work from home. We do have job search engines now that help link people with disabilities to have a better odds of getting a job and working from home. Taking this in a little bit different direction, I'm currently working with a young lady who was born deaf. She requires an interpreter for meetings and job interviews and work orientation. And as she says, for a few days after orientation, because she catches on quickly. She is bright. She obtained an associate's degree in medical information technology, and I'm doing job development with the employer, General Dynamics, information technology firm that you probably have all heard of. They're an international company. They refer to themselves as GDIT because they're an IT big time company. I'm working with them I met with them and Louisiana Association for the Blind. I asked them to attend with me. I'm working with 3 departments at General Dynamics: their recruitment, their human resources, and their accommodations department. Because what they say is our people are our strength, and the uniqueness of each member of the team community is invaluable to General Dynamics. They feel their employees bring their whole selves to work, and so GD IT can be its best so their customers can be their best. They feel this is essential, the essence of diversity and inclusion, and they're working to integrate it into the pulse of everything they do. I can attest to knowing these people firsthand and that their PR words are backed by action. So I'm confident my deaf client will be hired in a clerical or data management position or perhaps a virtual help desk employee. Another reason for my confidence is General Dynamics recently hired one of our clients who was injured at football practice in high school, and he's now quadriplegic. This was not my client, but I shared his case because I think it's important to let employers know that LRS pays for all of the upfront costs to get someone job ready. We paid for his college education, his referral to Louisiana Association for the Blind so they could assess his needs for assistive technology. They ultimately placed him at General Dynamics. To give an example of what we did, we paid $3,585 to get him job ready. Thus, the employer does not have to pay this money. So we're there first for you. We take off a lot of your concerns about finances. As far as wheelchair repairs and all of those kind of vehicle modifications for this individual, these are things that come before you hire them. So again, once they're job ready and we've done all of our work, that means your costs have come down to what research shows less than $300. But once they're employed and they're satisfied and they're stable in their employment, they can start paying for their own disability needs for their whole lifestyle. So I just wanted to, bring out the point that there's a whole lot of work by rehabilitation counselors, then people like me who are doing job development and job placement. And a lot of the issues are worked out and the costs have already been paid by the time you see them. If they don't disclose a disability, it's because they don't need accommodations. They may have a diagnosis, but if they don't need the accommodations, they may not disclose. But when you're working with me, if we need to communicate so I can help you get some tax credits or whatever, that's what I'm here for. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. And we appreciate everything you employers are doing to hire our people. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you so much for your time to share the stories about how a RED can support local employers. We do have time. We have a little bit of time left. We have 6 minutes left. If there are any questions from anyone, please feel free to drop them in chat or the Q&A. I would like to ask a few questions just in case. So one of the things we were talking about is, how this kind of overall benefits from things like tax credits to accommodations, et cetera, for employers. I really want to bring it down to the local space. Could you tell us a little bit more about REDS and how many regions is it across, and how does someone work with their local REDS to ensure this relationship starts? And Brenda, do we have to start directly with LRS before you assign it to a RED, or can they go directly to their local office? Layered questions in there, but opening up for a chat. You're on mute.
Okay. So when businesses want to reach out and they're not quite sure where to go, I mean, you can go to a web page and you'll see a list of regional offices. And so you just would want to click on the office that's the nearest you. And when that main number that's listed on the web page is the main number, and all an employer has to ask for is, I want to see the person that connects people with businesses. And they're going to automatically know that that is the Reds. And so if you just ask who's the person that works with businesses around here, they're going to know that that connects to a Red. If they call the state office, which is where I work at, if we get that same question, they're going to know to transfer the phone call to me. And so that's all any employer needs to ask is, who's the person that works with businesses, and it will be the Reds. We'll get to you. Now, to answer your question, we have employment specialists all across the state. So Deb is, of course, we call it Region 7, but which that means is just the northwest section of Louisiana. And so we have some employers that have a multi-footprint in the state of Louisiana. And but what Northeast workforce needs are is completely different from what South Louisiana needs are. And so, we take that into consideration. So we have two different Reds for those two different areas.
Absolutely. Deb, do you have anything to add to that in terms of how?
If a consumer's coming through the program, they're going to be served first by the rehab counselors and get into a rehab plan with a job goal. I will work with rehab counselors because of my background to help come up with a very feasible and realistic goal, but also we refer them to a vocational evaluation to look at their intelligence, their aptitudes, their interests, and whatever, and develop a very individualized, customized rehab plan. Then when the services are finished, as far as accommodations, training, support employment, time-limited job coaching, whatever, at some point, the individuals are referred to me when they're job ready. They're higher functioning people. The support employment partners like LAB and Goodwill will do their own placement, but we collaborate the whole time. I'm involved from start to finish if I can be a help to anybody, the consumer or the caseworker.
Absolutely. In this current space that we're seeing a very interesting job market where there are a lot of positions open and employers are having some trouble or challenges looking for people to fill their space. Are you all getting any kind of questions or kind of common things that when you're engaging with an employer or someone in HR or hiring, what are some common questions that you're able to sort of help them combat when it comes to hiring, or even help ease any kind of frustration before they start working with you all to place someone in a position?
Well, for me personally, General Dynamics reached out to me. And then Brenda can tell you that we're doing a virtual job fair in October.
Oh yeah, I meant to mention that. Yes,
that'd
yes.
be awesome.
So if we are doing a virtual, we did one last year. Blue Cross Blue Shield, Healthy Blue is our sponsor, and it will be on October the 11th. Again, it is virtual. And so if I have any employers out there that is interested in participating in this job fair, just connect with me afterwards. You can either call or you can email, and I can get you registered. But to answer your question, I still feel that a lot of employers are not aware of us. They're not aware that we have this whole wonderful talent pool right here that exists within the disability community. Because again, some people think that disability equals disabled and are not able to work. And that is so not the case. These people want to work. This is, I talked about the benefits to employers when you tap into this talented pool, that it increases morale. And a lot of that is, just say you're going to work and you're going to work with somebody with a visible disability, and you're belly aching over here because something is not right in your personal life or what have you, or you're just grouchy to be there at work instead of at home doing what you really want to do. And then you look over at this person that has a visible disability, and they're working and they're happy to be there. I guarantee you quit your belly aching and you get happy. And that automatically increases morale. It's just a really good thing to have a diverse workforce. You know, I appreciate diversity. It adds so much. And, you know, and businesses, they want to have a great workforce. They want to have a great workforce because they know what it means to their bottom line. And everybody around here we're here to make money. You know, we're not here to fail on any sort. And we don't want you to fail. Not only do we want to have you recruit from our talent pool, but we want to have a great fit. We want to recruit a great fit for you, but we also want to have a great fit for the consumer that we're working with. So we're not going to say, pick this person will be a great fit for you if we actively know that this person's not going to be a good fit for that person. So that's why, like for like Deborah in her role, her two consumers, her two clients are the consumer, which is the person with the disability, and the employer. Those are the two clients that she works with on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. And I appreciate that. That was a really great way to kind of sum up a lot of things that we have all been talking about in these last few series. And you're right, employers do want to, of course, create a healthy working environment. As you know, you spend a lot of time at work, you want it to be a great place to work.
Absolutely.
And how we do that is to make sure that opportunity exists for as many people as possible. We are unfortunately out of time, but I think what we will, if you have any questions, or we will have this on recording, so you can always recap. And one thing I would love to make sure I get from you, Deborah and Brenda, before we send out our post-event survey, is information on the job fairs, so people can sign up, learn more about it, and we can also send it to some of our previous attendees in case they are interested in participating in it. So we'd love to get that information. And
okay,
I know,
so can I send you our job fair flyer? Is that how that would work better?
Yes, okay. That would be great. I will send it in the email to everyone who has registered and attended today, and across the series, so that way it is not lost upon anyone else. And then we will also include any kind of chats, any kind of connecting information, so people can make sure that they have resources like yourselves. But I really want to thank everyone for joining us. Deborah and Brenda, thank you so much for your valuable information. And Brenda, thank you so much for participating again with us. And we appreciate all the rich information you do provide. Again, this is an important resource for employers, and really connecting people with developmental disabilities who want to work, are talented and capable, and should have the opportunity, just like everyone else, to vie for a job that they are suited for. So thank you, everyone. Again, we will be sending out a post-event survey with this presentation, along with information on the job fair as well, and contact information for Brenda and Deborah and all the other Reds if you want to reach out to your local regional LRS office. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you for our last one on August 23rd. And have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.